A black nurse was proposed to by the city's ruthless mafia boss at first sight. Everyone warned her, until wedding night. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now let's continue. Tiana Williams was having what she'd later described to her therapist as a Tuesday. Not a particularly good Tuesday, mind you. Mr. Henderson in room 302 had thrown his bedpan at her, again. She'd accidentally worn 2 different shoes to work, again. And the hospital cafeteria had run out of those little chocolate pudding cups that were basically the only thing keeping her sane. "Girl, you look like you've been wrestling with death itself," her colleague Keisha observed, leaning against the nurse's station. "Close. Mr. Henderson's aim is getting better," Tiana muttered, tucking a strand of her thick jet-black hair behind her ear. Her amber eyes, usually bright with compassion, now held the 1,000-yard stare of someone who'd been in the healthcare trenches for too long without a vacation. "At least your cheekbones still look good," Keisha offered helpfully. "Thanks, that's exactly what I needed to hear after dodging flying waste receptacles." It was 7 p.m., and the emergency room had finally quieted down from its usual chaos of skateboard accidents, mysterious rashes, and people who definitely should have just taken Tylenol at home. Tiana was just contemplating whether she had enough energy to hit the gym, she didn't, or if Netflix and a family-sized bag of chips counted as self-care, it did, when the automatic doors whooshed open. The man who walked in didn't belong in their modest city hospital. He belonged in one of those dramatic slow-motion entrances with wind machines and possibly a string quartet playing in the background. Yamamoto Ryu stood at what had to be at least 6-foot-something of pure, intimidating presence. His raven black hair was slicked back so perfectly that Tiana briefly wondered if he had a team of stylists following him around with pocket combs. His dark eyes swept the emergency room with the kind of cold, calculating intensity usually reserved for people choosing between regular or decaf at Starbucks. His suit probably cost more than Tiana's car. Actually, his suit probably cost more than Tiana's car, her student loans, and her entire collection of scrubs combined. "Can I help you?" Tiana asked, putting on her professional smile despite internally calculating how many pudding cups his suit could buy. He turned those piercing eyes on her, and she immediately understood why the entire emergency room had gone silent. Even the guy who'd been moaning dramatically about his stubbed toe had suddenly discovered the healing power of shutting up. "You," he said, his voice carrying the kind of authority that made people want to salute or possibly offer him their firstborn child. "Me?" Tiana looked behind her, hoping maybe he was talking to someone else. Nope, just a wall with a poster about proper hand-washing techniques. "Sir, if you're having a medical emergency, marry me." The words hung in the air like someone had just announced that hospital jello was actually a gourmet delicacy. Tiana blinked, then blinked again. Then wondered if someone had slipped something into her coffee. "I'm sorry, what now?" "Marry me, Tiana Williams," he repeated, as casually as someone might order a latte. "It's not a request. It's an inevitability." "Okay, hold up." Tiana held up both hands, her athletic frame tensing like she was about to either fight or flee. Possibly both. "First of all, how do you know my name? Second of all, that's not how proposals work. Third of all, are you insane?" "Your name tag," he said, pointing to her chest with one perfectly manicured finger. Tiana looked down. Right. Name tag. That made slightly more sense than him being psychic, though not by much. "Sir, I think you might be confused. This is a hospital, not The Bachelor. We don't do proposals here. We do medical care. Sometimes we have pudding, but apparently not today." His expression didn't change. If anything, he looked vaguely amused, like her resistance was a cute but ultimately futile gesture. "I'm never confused. I've decided you'll be my wife." "You've decided?" Tiana's voice went up an octave. "Did I miss the memo where my opinion doesn't matter? Because I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Also probably several other things. Creepy, for one." Keisha, who had been frozen in place like she was witnessing a car crash in slow motion, finally found her voice. Tiana girl, do you know who this is? A man who clearly skipped the chapter on consent in his How to Human handbook. That's Yamamoto Ryu, Keisha whispered, though her whisper was about as subtle as a foghorn. The name meant nothing to Tiana. Okay, and I'm Tiana Williams. Nice to meet you. Please leave before I call security. You don't know who he is? Another nurse, Marcus, had appeared from nowhere, his eyes wide. Marcus made a vague gesture that could have meant anything from very rich to possibly transforms into a dragon at midnight. I don't care if he's the Pope's personal trainer, Tiana said. You can't just walk into someone's workplace and demand marriage. That's not how anything works. Ryu pulled out his phone, the latest model that wasn't even supposed to be released yet, and typed something. 30 seconds later, Tiana's student loans were paid off. Her phone buzzed with the notification. She stared at it, then at him, then back at her phone. Did you just... Your student loans were $87,436.23, he said matter-of-factly. Consider it a down payment. A down payment? Tiana's voice had transcended octaves and was now in a range only dogs could hear. I'm not a car. You can't put a down payment on a person. That's human trafficking. It's a gift, he corrected. No strings attached. Except for the marriage string, which is pretty much the biggest string there is. The emergency room had turned into an impromptu theater, with everyone watching the show unfold. Someone was definitely recording this on their phone. Tiana was going to be a meme by morning. Look, Mr. Yamamoto. Ryu. Mr. Ryu. Just Ryu. Listen, buddy, Tiana snapped, her amber eyes flashing with a combination of confusion, annoyance, and the tiniest bit of curiosity about what other debts he could make disappear. I don't know what romance novels you've been reading, but this isn't how real life works. You want to marry someone? Try dating first. Maybe dinner. Definitely not financial coercion in an emergency room. I don't date, he said simply. Clearly. I've made my decision. You're perfect. I'm wearing 2 different shoes. He glanced down at her feet, one white sneaker, one black clog. His expression didn't change. It shows character. It shows I got dressed in the dark after a 12-hour shift. Say yes, he said, and for the first time, his voice softened slightly. There was something in his eyes, not warmth exactly, but a flicker of... something. Trust me. Trust you? I don't even know you. You could be a serial killer. Or worse, someone who puts pineapple on pizza. I own 17 pizza restaurants, no pineapple in any of them. That's oddly specific, but not really the point. Tiana's mind was racing. This was insane, certifiably, absolutely, completely insane. She should say no. She should call security. She should definitely not be considering this. But her student loans were gone, just like that. Poof, like financial magic. And there was something about him, something dangerous and mysterious and absolutely terrible for her mental health. Her mother always said she had terrible taste in men. This would really prove her point. One dinner, she heard herself say, immediately regretting it. Wedding's next month, he countered. What? I'll send you the details. He turned to leave, then paused. Wear whatever shoes you like. And then he was gone, leaving Tiana standing there in mismatched footwear, holding her phone with the notification about her paid-off loans, surrounded by co-workers who looked like they'd just witnessed someone propose via interpretive dance while juggling flaming batons. What? Tiana said to no one in particular. Just happened? Girl, Keisha said slowly, I think you just got engaged to the Japanese mafia. The what now? As the weight of the decision she hadn't really made sank in, Tiana realized 3 things. First, she needed those chocolate pudding cups now more than ever. Second, Her mother was going to have opinions about this. And thirdly, she had absolutely no idea what she'd just gotten herself into. But hey, at least her student loans were paid off. That had to count for something. Tiana Williams had not slept. At all. She'd spent the entire night Googling Yamamoto Ryu and discovering that the internet had opinions about her new maybe fiancé. The first search result was a news article titled, "Local Businessman Definitely Not Connected to Organized Crime, Sources Who Value Their Lives Say." Very reassuring. "So let me get this straight," her best friend Jasmine said over FaceTime at 3 a.m., eating cereal in her pajamas. "A random hot guy walked into your job, paid off your student loans, and proposed?" "That's the summary, yes." "And you said yes?" "I said one dinner. He heard wedding next month. I think he has selective hearing." "Girl, WebMD says that's a symptom of being a psychopath." "WebMD says everything is a symptom of being a psychopath, or cancer." Tiana's laptop screen was filled with tabs. Yamamoto Ryu net worth. Undisclosed, but probably enough to buy a small country. Yamamoto Ryu girlfriend. None survived long enough to update their relationship status, apparently. Yamamoto Ryu crime family. Error 404. Page not found, which was suspicious in itself. "Look at this," Tiana said, sharing her screen. "Every single photo of him looks like it was taken by someone who was very far away and possibly running for their life." "That one's just blurry enough to be Bigfoot," Jasmine observed helpfully. The next morning, Tiana arrived at work to find the entire hospital buzzing with gossip. Apparently, someone's Ring camera video of terrifying man proposes to nurse with financial threats had gone viral on TikTok. "You're famous," Keisha announced. "Also possibly engaged to a crime lord. But mostly famous." "He's not a crime lord," Tiana protested weakly. Marcus walked by pushing a wheelchair. "He's definitely a crime lord. My cousin's boyfriend's sister works at a sushi restaurant where he eats. She says he orders the same thing every time, and once someone tried to sit at his table and they just disappeared." "They probably just left," Tiana said. "Forever," Marcus added ominously. Before Tiana could respond, the elevator dinged open, and out walked a man who looked like he'd stepped out of a Bodyguard's Russ catalog. Black suit, sunglasses indoors, earpiece, the whole 9 yards. "Miss Williams," he said in a voice that suggested he gargled with gravel every morning. "Mr. Yamamoto requests your presence for lunch." "I'm working." "Your shift has been covered." "By who?" The bodyguard pointed to the corner where 3 nurses Tiana had never seen before were already putting on scrubs. They moved with the kind of efficiency that suggested they'd done this before, possibly while disposing of bodies. Did he just hire random nurses? "The best in the country," the bodyguard corrected. "Harvard Medical School graduates." "For one shift?" "Mr. Yamamoto is thorough." 15 minutes later, Tiana found herself in the back of a car that probably cost more than most people's houses. The leather seats were softer than clouds, assuming clouds were made of butter and dreams. "So," she said to the bodyguard, who'd introduced himself as Ken, "what exactly does Mr. Yamamoto do?" "Business." "What kind of business?" "Various business." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer you're getting." "Is it illegal business?" Ken's sunglasses somehow got darker. "Mr. Yamamoto's lawyers have advised me not to answer questions that contain the word illegal." "That's not reassuring." "It's not meant to be." They pulled up to a restaurant that didn't have a name, just a door that looked like it was trying very hard not to be noticed. Inside, every single table was empty except for one in the corner where Ryu sat, looking at his phone like it contained the secrets of the universe. He looked up when she approached, and Tiana was annoyed to find that he looked even better in daylight. His sharp jawline could probably cut glass, and his dark eyes had that brooding intensity that romance novels always went on about, but usually just meant the guy needed more fiber in his diet. "You came," he said, standing up with fluid grace. "You sent a man who looked like he bench presses other men who bench press." I didn't think I had a choice. You always have a choice. He pulled out her chair. I just make one option significantly more appealing. Through intimidation? Through Harvard-trained nurses covering your shift. Okay, that was actually pretty considerate, in a completely insane, over-the-top way. A waiter appeared from nowhere, the way waiters in expensive restaurants always seem to, like they were spawned from the shadows whenever someone's water glass dropped below half full. The usual, Mr. Yamamoto? Yes. And for the lady? Tiana looked at the menu. It was entirely in Japanese with no pictures and no prices, which she'd learned meant if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. I'll have whatever doesn't involve tentacles, she said. Adventurous, Ryu commented, with what might have been amusement. So, Tiana said, folding her arms. People keep telling me you're in the Mafia. People say many things. That's not a denial. It's not a confirmation either. Are you always this cryptic, or is it just with potential wives you financially coerced? You're my only potential wife. That doesn't answer my question. I noticed. The food arrived and Tiana had to admit it looked incredible. She didn't know what any of it was, but it was arranged on the plate like someone had a PhD in food geometry. Why me? She asked, taking a bite of something that turned out to be the best thing she'd ever tasted. There have to be easier women to marry, ones who don't argue with you, ones who know which fork to use. There are 3 forks, you use them from the outside in. That wasn't the point. Ryu leaned back, studying her with those dark eyes. You didn't know who I was. And? Everyone knows who I am. Everyone is either afraid of me or wants something from me. You threw a stress ball at my head. That was an accident. I was aiming for the door. Your aim is terrible. Mr. Henderson's flying bedpan would disagree. You treated me like a normal person having an abnormal moment, he continued. Do you know how rare that is? So you proposed? It seemed efficient. Efficient. You proposed for efficiency, among other reasons. Such as? He paused, considering. You have excellent cheekbones. My cheekbones? And you wear mismatched shoes with confidence. That was an accident. You make accidents look intentional. It's a skill. Tiana stared at him. You're insane. Probably. Definitely. Are you going to marry me anyway? I don't even know what you do for a living. Everyone keeps making ominous hints about crime and disappearing and something about cement shoes, which I'm pretty sure isn't a fashion statement. Ryu's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, typed something quickly, then looked back at her. I run a family business. What kind of family business? The kind that's been in my family for generations. That tells me nothing. It tells you it's about family. The Godfather was about family too. Excellent movie. Not the point. Ken appeared at their table. Sir, the situation has been handled. What situation? Tiana asked. The one that's been handled, Ken replied helpfully. You're all impossible, Tiana muttered. But well-dressed, Ryu added. Despite herself, Tiana laughed. Is that supposed to make up for the potential criminal enterprise? I prefer alternatively legal business ventures. That's definitely crime. That's definitely speculation. I can't marry a maybe criminal. Then it's fortunate I'm definitely not maybe anything. That doesn't even make sense. Neither does love. Who said anything about love? You proposed after knowing me for 30 seconds. 37 seconds, he corrected. I'm very precise. Oh well, 37 seconds, that changes everything. The waiter returned with dessert that looked like it belonged in an art museum. Tiana took a bite and nearly moaned. It was like angels had decided to become pastry chefs. Okay, this food is almost worth marrying potentially dangerous men, she admitted. I own the restaurant. Of course you do. I own 17 restaurants, actually. The pizza places, among others. Is anything you own not connected to possible crime? The pizza is definitely legal. That's suspiciously specific. Ryu's phone buzzed again. This time his expression darkened as he read the message. We need to leave. What? Why? Ken, was all he said. And suddenly Ken was there, looking even more intimidating than before, which Tiana hadn't thought was possible. Is everything okay? Tiana asked. Everything is fine, Ryu said, in a tone that suggested everything was definitely not fine. But we're leaving, now. As Ken ushered them toward a back exit Tiana hadn't even noticed, she heard the front door crash open. She caught a glimpse of men in suits who looked like they ate steroids for breakfast and intimidation for lunch. Friends of yours? She asked Ryu as they hurried through the kitchen. Former business associates. The kind of business associates that require us to flee through kitchens? The kind that have different opinions about business strategies. That's definitely crime. That's definitely Tuesday. They emerged in an alley where a different car was already waiting. As Ken pushed them inside and the car sped off, Tiana realized several things. 1. She was definitely in over her head too. Ryu was definitely in organized crime. 3. She was probably going to die for. But at least she'd had really good dessert first. So, she said, as they merged into traffic at speeds that were definitely illegal. When you said wedding next month, did you mean a wedding or a wedding? She made air quotes. What's the difference? One involves cake and bad dancing, the other involves cement shoes and sleeping with fishes. Why would anyone sleep with fishes? That's unhygienic. I can't tell if you're joking. I never joke about hygiene. Ken took a hard right that made Tiana grab onto Ryu's arm, his very muscled arm. His very, very muscled arm suggested he didn't just order people to do crimes, but possibly participated in crime-related calisthenics. Your life, she said, still holding his arm, is insane. Yes, he agreed, but it's never boring. I liked boring. Boring was nice. Boring didn't involve car chases. This isn't a chase. They're not following us. How do you know? Because Ken is very good at his job. Which is? Various things, Ken said from the driver's seat. You're all impossible, Tiana muttered again, but she didn't let go of his arm. And when Ryu's hand covered hers, warm and steady despite the chaos, she didn't pull away. She was definitely going to die. Tiana Williams had been engaged to a maybe crime lord for exactly 1 week, and her life had become unrecognizable. For starters, she now had a security detail. 3 men in suits who followed her everywhere, pretending to read newspapers while obviously talking into their sleeves. Ma'am, the perimeter is secure, one informed her at CVS. It's a drugstore, Derek. My name is Shadow Wolf. I'm not calling you that. Mr. Yamamoto insists on code names. Your Starbucks cup literally says Derek. Living with Ryu was surreal. He'd moved her into his penthouse without asking, though he'd hired professional movers who handled her belongings like sacred artifacts. The place was ridiculous, with an elevator that opened directly into the living room and a kitchen full of appliances she didn't recognize. What's this? She asked, pointing to a machine with 17 buttons. Espresso machine, Ryu answered without looking up from his phone. Why does it need 3 time zones? In case the coffee wants to travel. She couldn't tell if he was joking. His face had exactly one expression. Vaguely contemplative murder. The thing was, everyone was terrified of him. Waiters practically genuflected. Once, someone bumped into him and immediately apologized in 3 languages. Is that normal? Tiana asked. Define normal. People don't usually grovel. They do if they're smart. But then there were weird moments of sweetness. Like when she mentioned missing her grandmother's mac and cheese, and the next day a Michelin-starred chef was in their kitchen, learning the recipe via FaceTime. The real problem started when she returned to work. Being engaged to Ryu came with a reputation. Everyone either wanted to be her friend or was terrified of her. Dr. Peterson, who'd never acknowledged her before, suddenly invited her for coffee. "Please don't have me killed," he added quickly. "I'm not going to have you killed." That's exactly what someone planning murder would say. Even patients were weird now. Mrs. Fai. Chen kept trying to set her up with her grandson. "He's very normal, no crime, barely even jaywalks." "I'm engaged, Mrs. Chen. To dangerous man. My grandson only dangerous to cholesterol." The worst part was when Ryu got jealous. She hadn't thought he was capable of emotions beyond homicidal variations, but apparently jealousy was in his repertoire. It happened when Dr. Mike, a new resident who looked like he'd walked out of a medical drama, asked her for coffee. "I'm engaged," Tiana said, holding up her hand with the ring Ryu had given her, roughly the size of a golf ball. Unfortunately, Ryu chose that moment to materialize like a well-dressed demon, Ken flanking him. "Tiana," he said, his voice making everyone wonder if they'd updated their wills. "Ryu, what are you doing here?" "I own the hospital." He looked at Dr. Mike with a stare that probably violated Geneva conventions. "You're new." Yes, sir." "How unfortunate if it was also your last." "Riku." "I meant at this hospital. Alaska has opportunities." "I don't want to go to Alaska. The aurora borealis is beautiful." "It's July." "All the more reason." Dr. Mike evaporated, leaving only the scent of terror. "You can't threaten everyone who talks to me," Tiana said. "I offered career guidance." "To Alaska." "Alaska needs doctors." That night, she found him in his office, which looked like where international incidents were planned. Multiple screens showed things she didn't want to know about. "We need boundaries," she said. He looked up. "Boundaries?" "Yes. Normal people have them. You can't buy hospitals because someone was mean to me." "Why not?" "Because that's insane." "But efficient." "Not everything needs to be efficient." He stood up, moving closer with predatory grace. "You're still here. You moved my stuff. You could leave. Derek follows me. Shadow Wolf." "I'm not calling him that." He was very close now, smelling like expensive cologne and poor decisions. "You're here because you want to be," he said quietly. "You're delusional." "Possibly, but I'm also right." His phone rang, and his expression shifted to murder mode. He answered in Japanese, spoke rapidly, then hung up. "Problem?" Tiana asked. "My mother is coming." Ken actually paled. "Should I prepare the panic room?" "She'd find us." Before Tiana could ask, the elevator dinged. Out walked a tiny Japanese woman wearing pearls and radiating disapproval. Maybe 5 feet tall, but with the presence of a tsunami. "Ryu," she said, voice like frozen sake. "Mother." Her eyes turned to Tiana. "So, the nurse." "Yes, ma'am." "You're very tall." "Thank you?" That wasn't a compliment. "Oh." "I selected 12 suitable wives," his mother continued, pulling out a binder. "All shorter, all with reasonable cheekbones." "Mother," Ryu warned. "This one," she pointed at a photo, "owns half of Kyoto." "And this one," Ryu said, putting his arm around Tiana, "makes me want to not commit murder before breakfast." "Low bar," his mother observed. "Higher than you think," Ken muttered. Everyone looked at him. "I said nothing." "She agreed to marry you after 37 seconds," his mother continued. "Everyone knows?" YouTube, 6 million views. "Oh, God." "Why does everyone think we kill people?" Tiana asked. Everyone looked at her. "Right, mafia, allegedly." Suddenly, there was a crash from the kitchen. Everyone tensed. Ken's hand went to his jacket. A chef poked his head out. "Sorry, dropped a pan. Please don't kill me." As Ryu's mother launched into why Tiana was unsuitable, complete with PowerPoint, Tiana's phone buzzed. Jasmine texted, "Girl, you're trending. Hatch nurse mafia wife. His mom looks terrifying. You're watching?" Ken's live streaming. Hi, Ken. Ken waved at his phone. I have 17 more slides, his mother announced. Show me, Tiana said. If I'm unsuitable, I should be thoroughly unsuitable. His mother looked surprised. You're mocking me. Yes. There was silence. Then his mother laughed, terrifying like a hyena in pearls. She has spine. You'll need that when the Tanaka family comes. The who? Tiana asked. No one, Ryu said. The second most powerful crime family, his mother corrected. Allegedly crime family. Your grandfather would be ashamed of this allegedly nonsense. In his day, crime was crime. Mother! What? She should know she'll probably die. I'm dying? Probably, but you're tall, harder to bury. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be, dear. As his mother continued her presentation, Tiana wondered what she'd gotten into. Her quiet life of 12-hour shifts and Netflix had transformed into bodyguards with stupid code names, a fiancé who bought medical facilities like candy, and a potential mother-in-law who discussed her burial prospects over tea. Slide 12, his mother announced. Your incompatibility with traditional values. I can make sushi, Tiana offered weakly. California rolls don't count. They should. They're an abomination. Ryu's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Mother, enough. I'm not finished. Slide 13, her inability to use chopsticks properly. How does she know that? Tiana whispered. I had you investigated, his mother said, hearing perfectly. You hold them like pencils. They are like pencils. Slide 14, your Netflix history. That's private. Reality dating shows, Ryu. She watches reality dating shows. Those are educational. For what? How to find love in a hot tub? Ken's livestream chat was going wild. Tiana could see comments flying by on his phone screen. Is this real? Someone typed. Better than Netflix, another added. Team Tiana appeared multiple times. Mother, Ryu said firmly. I'm marrying her. Despite the chopsticks? Because of the chopsticks. That made no sense, but Tiana appreciated the support. His mother sighed dramatically, closing her binder. Fine. But when you die in a mob war, don't blame me. We're not mob, Ryu protested. You literally just threatened someone with Alaska, Tiana pointed out. That was career advice. That was a threat. Threats involve concrete. Stop saying that. His mother stood, gathering her materials. The wedding is next month. I'll plan everything. You, she pointed at Tiana, will wear white, even though you don't deserve it after agreeing to marry someone you just met. That seems judgmental. I'm his mother. Judgment is my job. After she left, taking her disapproval in PowerPoint with her, Tiana collapsed on the couch. Your mom is terrifying. You did well, Ryu said, sitting beside her. She hates me. She hates everyone. But she called you tall. That's basically approval. She said it makes me harder to bury. In her world, that's practical thinking. Your world is insane. Yes, he agreed. But it's never boring. Looking at him, at Ken still live streaming, at her phone blowing up with notifications about becoming internet famous, at the espresso machine that knew 3 time zones, Tiana realized she was in deep trouble. Not the cement shoes kind, but the kind where she was starting to actually like this ridiculous life. Fine, she said. But I'm keeping Derek's real name. Shadow Wolf. Derek? You're impossible, Ryu said, but she caught him almost smiling. You love it. Allegedly. As sirens wailed in the distance and Ken's livestream hit 1 million viewers, Tiana realized her boring life was officially over. Tiana Williams was having what could generously be called a mental breakdown in the cereal aisle of Target. She'd escaped her security personnel, by claiming she needed feminine products, which made all three grown men suddenly remember urgent phone calls they needed to make in the parking lot. "Ma'am, are you okay?" a Target employee asked, finding her sitting on the floor between the Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes. "I'm engaged to a maybe mob boss. His mother wants to bury me efficiently, and I just found out my wedding has its own hashtag," Tiana said, holding up her phone. Hashtag Mafia Nurse Wedding is trending. There are fan fictions, Bradley. My name is Steve. There's one where I'm secretly a ninja nurse. What even is a ninja nurse? Ma'am, I just stock shelves. Steve, what would you do if someone proposed to you after 37 seconds? Depends. Are they rich? Probably illegally rich. I'd say yes. This economy is terrible. He had a point. Tiana's phone rang. It was her mother, which was suspicious because her mother only called during Judge Judy commercials or when someone died. Tiana Michelle Williams. Hi, Mom. Don't you hi mom me. I just saw you on the news. Channel 7 said you're marrying a Japanese crime lord. Alleged crime lord. That's not better. And why didn't you tell me? I had to find out from Mrs. Patterson, who found out from her daughter, who saw it on TikTok. It happened fast. How fast? 37 seconds. There was silence. Then, "Are you pregnant?" "Mother!" It's a valid question. Nobody gets engaged that fast, unless there's a baby or blackmail involved. There's no baby. So blackmail? No, maybe, it's complicated. Tiana, I'm coming over. I'm in Target. Which Target? Mom, no. Which Target? 20 minutes later, Tiana's mother, Patricia Williams, stood in the cereal aisle looking like she'd walked straight out of a church revival meeting. She wore her good wig, the one she saved for funerals and court dates, which was never a good sign. "Show me the ring," she demanded. Tiana held out her hand. The diamond caught the fluorescent lights and nearly blinded 3 passing customers. "Jesus, Mary, and Beyoncé," her mother whispered. "That's real?" "Unfortunately." "How much is that worth?" "I don't know. Probably a small country's GDP. Her mother grabbed her hand, examining the ring like she was a jeweler with trust issues. "And this man, Yamamoto Ryu, he just proposed, out of nowhere." "Pretty much." "At the hospital?" "Yes." "And you said yes?" "I said one dinner. He heard wedding." Her mother was quiet for a suspiciously long time. Patricia Williams was never quiet unless she was planning something or constipated, and she'd been taking fiber supplements religiously since 1997. "Mom, what aren't you telling me?" "Nothing." "Mother, I may have known his father." Tiana felt the floor drop out from under her, which was concerning since she was already sitting on it. "What do you mean known?" "Not like that. Get your mind out of the gutter. Your father knew him. They had business." "What kind of business?" "The kind we don't talk about." "Mom, my maybe criminal fiancé's mother already threatened to bury me efficiently. I need to know what I'm dealing with." Patricia looked around, as if the Lucky Charms leprechaun might be wearing a wire. "Your father wasn't always an accountant." "What?" "Before he died, he did other things. Things that required creativity with numbers." "Are you saying Dad was a criminal?" "I'm saying he was entrepreneurial in a legally gray area." "That's crime, Mom!" "Shh! Steve doesn't need to know our business." Steve, who was definitely eavesdropping while pretending to arrange Cocoa Puffs, looked offended. "I'm very discreet." "Your father," Patricia continued, lowering her voice, "may have done some creative accounting for the Yamamoto family. And by creative, I mean he may have redirected some funds." "He stole from the mob?" "Allegedly redirected." "Mom, that's not better. That's worse. That's so much worse. He was going to pay it back." "To the mafia?" "They prefer organized family business." Oh my God. Is that why Ryu proposed? Is this some kind of revenge plot? Marry the daughter of the man who stole from them? Her mother's face did something complicated, like she was trying to solve algebra while constipated. Mom, mother, what else? I may have suggested the marriage. What? Steve dropped an entire display of cereal boxes. Sorry, so sorry, but also, what? You were struggling with those student loans, Patricia said defensively. And Mrs. Yamamoto and I play mahjong together on Thursdays. You play mahjong with my potential murderer-in-law? She's very good. Probably cheats, but very good. And you just what? Offered me up like some kind of virgin sacrifice? You're not a virgin. Remember that unfortunate situation with Kevin from nursing school? Mom! I'm just saying, false advertising is also a crime. I cannot believe this. You sold me to the mob to settle Dad's debt? Nobody sold anyone. I merely mentioned that you were single, successful, and had those nice cheekbones from my side of the family. You pimped me out. I match-made. There's a difference. What's the difference? Matchmaking sounds nicer. Steve had given up all pretense and was now sitting with them, eating cereal straight from a box he definitely hadn't paid for. This is better than Netflix. Steve, you're not helping, Tiana said. Sorry, but also, your mom kind of has a point. The economy is terrible and he did pay off your loans. At 2, Steve? I took Latin in high school. Patricia's phone rang. She looked at it and paled. It's Michiko. Who? Ryu's mother. We're supposed to plan the wedding today. I haven't even agreed to the wedding. Your hashtag has 5 million posts. You kind of have to now. That's not how marriage works. Patricia answered the phone, immediately switching to her fake polite voice, the one she used for white people and tax auditors. Michiko. How lovely to hear from you. Yes, she's with me, Target. Yes, the one with the good parking. Is she coming here? Tiana asked in horror. She says she'll be here in 10 minutes. How does she know which Target? She knows everything. Last week she knew I cheated on my diet before I even ate the cake. That's concerning. That's Michiko. 10 minutes later, exactly, Ryu's mother walked into Target like she owned it. Which for all Tiana knew, she probably did. She was wearing a different set of pearls, these ones probably worth more than the entire cereal aisle, and looked at the fluorescent lighting like it personally offended her. Patricia, she said, air-kissing Tiana's mother. Tiana, random stock boy. Steve offered. I don't care. Fair. So, Michiko said, pulling out an iPad Pro that materialized from nowhere. The wedding. I've booked the plaza. The Plaza Hotel? Tiana squeaked. No, the Plaza parking lot. Yes, the hotel. Where else would a Yamamoto get married? City Hall? Vegas? Not at all. Don't be ridiculous. We have a reputation to maintain. As alleged criminals? As people with taste. She started scrolling through her iPad, which appeared to have a wedding plan down to the molecular level. 500 guests, mostly business associates. Criminals, Tiana said. Alleged business associates, Michiko corrected. The mayor will attend. The mayor is corrupt. Allegedly corrupt. You'll wear Vera Wang. I don't even know who that is. That's why I'm in charge. Steve raised his hand. Can I come? No, everyone said simultaneously. Worth a shot. Now, Michiko continued, about your father's debt. The cereal aisle suddenly felt very cold. You know, Tiana asked, I know everything. He stole $8 million. $8 million? Tiana and Patricia shrieked together. Steve whistled. That's a lot of cereal. Not helpful, Steve, Tiana said. Your marriage to my son clears the debt, Michiko said simply. Consider it a business merger. I'm not a business. Everything is business, dear. Even love, especially love. That's depressing. That's practical. Tiana's phone buzzed. It was Ryu. My mother terrorizing you? She's in Target discussing my father's apparently massive theft with Steve from the cereal aisle. Who's Steve? Random employee who's weirdly invested now. I feel very included, Steve added. Should I come? Ryu texted. Only if you bring alcohol. Sake or vodka? Both. All of it. All the alcohol. Your father, Michiko continued, ignoring the texting, was creative. I'll give him that. It took us 3 years to find the money trail. And then? Patricia asked nervously. And then he died before we could collect. Conveniently, Tiana muttered. Are you implying we killed him? Michiko asked, raising one perfectly plucked eyebrow. Did you? He had a heart attack. A suspicious heart attack? All heart attacks are suspicious when you owe the Yakuza $8 million. Yakuza? Tiana, Patricia, and Steve all yelled. Alleged Yakuza, Michiko corrected. We're a legitimate business family. That does crime. That allegedly does crime. Tiana stood up, nearly knocking over a display of Lucky Charms. I need air. We're in Target. There's plenty of air, Michiko pointed out. I need different air. Air that doesn't smell like cereal and criminal conspiracy. Alleged criminal conspiracy, everyone corrected in unison. I hate all of you. She stormed toward the exit, followed by her mother, Michiko, and Steve for some reason. You can't leave, Steve, Patricia said. I'm on break. It's been 5 minutes. I'm very efficient. In the parking lot, Ryu's Bentley was pulling up. He stepped out looking like he'd walked off a magazine cover for Intimidating Millionaires Monthly, carrying what appeared to be an entire liquor store. You actually brought alcohol, Tiana said. You sounded stressed. Your mother just told me my father stole $8 million from the Yakuza. Alleged Yakuza. Not the point. Also, who's Steve? Steve waved. I work here. This is the best day ever. Ryu looked at Steve, then at Tiana, then at the bizarre gathering in the Target parking lot. Should I be concerned? My mother sold me to your family to settle a debt I didn't know existed. Your mother is planning a wedding I didn't agree to, and Steve from Target is somehow involved now. I see. That's all, you see? Would you prefer dramatic gasping? A little emotion would be nice. I'm emotionally constipated, he said matter-of-factly. Mother had me tested. That's not a real thing. Tell that to my diagnosis. Michiko clapped her hands. Enough. We have a wedding to plan. Steve, you're hired. For what? Steve asked. I don't know yet, but you're enthusiastic. I like that. I get to quit Target? Immediately. Steve ripped off his name tag and threw it in the air. Freedom. This is insane, Tiana muttered. Welcome to the family, Ryu said, and she couldn't tell if he was being sarcastic or sincere. I hate your family. That's the spirit. As they stood in the Target parking lot, with Steve celebrating his new undefined job, Patricia and Michiko comparing mahjong strategies, and Ryu holding enough alcohol to sedate a small army, Tiana realized her life had gone completely off the rails. But at least the wedding would have good cake. Probably. Unless that was also allegedly poisoned. Tiana Williams was getting married in approximately 4 hours, and she was hiding in a coat closet at the Plaza Hotel. This seemed like a perfectly reasonable response to the situation. I can see your feet, Jasmine said from outside the door. No, you can't. Those are coat feet. Coat feet? The coats have feet now. Fashion is weird. Girl, you need to come out. Your makeup artist is having a breakdown. Michiko is threatening people in Japanese, and Steve somehow got put in charge of the doves. Why are there doves? Nobody knows. They just appeared. Steve says Michiko summoned them through sheer force of will. Tiana cracked the door open. Is it too late to run away to Alaska? Ryu already threatened someone with that. You need new material. The past month had been a blur of wedding planning, which was mostly Michiko making decisions and everyone else nodding frantically. The guest list included 2 senators, both allegedly corrupt, a movie star, definitely tax fraud, and someone Michiko described as very important in waste management, which absolutely meant bodies. "I don't know these people," Tiana had protested when she saw the list. "That's intentional," Michiko had replied. "Plausible deniability. For my own wedding? Especially for your own wedding." Now, wedged between a mink coat and what might have been a stolen Picasso, Tiana didn't ask. She was reconsidering every life choice that had led her here. "Tiana Michelle Williams!" Her mother's voice echoed through the hallway. "Get out of that closet. You're not gay, you're just stressed." "That's not how that works, Mom." Patricia yanked the door open, revealing Tiana sitting on the floor in her robe, eating what appeared to be an entire wedding cake. "Is that your wedding cake?" Jasmine gasped. "They have 6 more," Tiana said through a mouthful of buttercream. "Michiko overorders everything. Last week she bought 17 ice sculptures for a planning meeting." "Where's the groom?" Patricia asked, looking around like Ryu might be hiding behind the coats too. "Probably planning a hit or whatever crime lords do on their wedding day." "Alleged crime lords," came Ryu's voice from the hallway. Everyone screamed. He stood there in his tuxedo, looking like he'd stepped out of a cologne commercial for Intimidation by Armani. His raven black hair was perfectly styled. His sharp jawline could probably cut the wedding cake, the one Tiana wasn't currently eating, and his dark eyes held their usual expression of calculated menace with a hint of confusion. "You're not supposed to see the bride before the wedding," Patricia shrieked. "That's a superstition. It's bad luck." "I don't believe in luck. I believe in strategic planning and occasional violence." "Alleged violence," Tiana corrected automatically. "You have frosting on your face," he observed. "You have a criminal empire. We all have our issues." He stepped into the closet, which immediately felt smaller despite being roughly the size of Tiana's old apartment. He crouched down beside her, pulled out a handkerchief that probably cost more than most people's cars, and wiped the frosting from her cheek. "You're eating your own wedding cake," he said. "Alleged wedding cake. I haven't agreed to this wedding yet." "You're wearing the robe with bride on it." "Michiko made me." "She makes everyone do things," he agreed. "Last week she made a senator cry." "Which one?" "Both of them." Patricia and Jasmine were watching this exchange like it was a tennis match played with emotional baggage and buttercream. "Should we leave?" Jasmine whispered. "Absolutely not," Patricia whispered back. "This is better than my stories." Ryu sat down fully, his expensive tuxedo now on the closet floor next to Tiana's cake-covered robe. "Having second thoughts?" "Having all the thoughts. First, second, third, fourth. Every thought that exists." "That's a lot of thoughts." "You proposed after 37 seconds. My dad apparently stole $8 million from your family. Your mother discusses my burial plans like it's meal planning. There are doves that Steve summoned through witchcraft." "Steve is very enthusiastic." "That's what you're focusing on?" "He did get the doves here on time." Tiana took another bite of cake. "Why are you marrying me? And don't say cheekbones." "Your cheekbones are exceptional." "Rar, why you?" He was quiet for a moment, which was concerning because Ryu was never quiet. He was always saying cryptic things about Alaska, or business, or alleged crimes. "My father arranged a marriage for me when I was 16, he finally said. "That's child abuse." "That's tradition. The girl was from a good family, which means a family with comparable criminal assets. Alleged criminal assets. She was perfect, well-trained, spoke 7 languages. Could kill a man with chopsticks. That's a very specific skill set. We married when I was 22. She died 6 months later." The closet suddenly felt very quiet. Even Patricia and Jasmine had stopped whispering. "What happened?" Tiana asked softly. "Rival family. Car bomb. She was pregnant." "Oh, Ryu." "After that, I decided if I had to marry again, it would be someone from outside this world. Someone who wouldn't die because of my name. Someone who argued with me about Alaska and wore mismatched shoes and didn't know who I was. So, this is protection? You're marrying me to keep me safe? I'm marrying you because when you threw that stress ball at my head, you weren't aiming at me. You were just living your life, and I happened to walk into it. No one has treated me like an inconvenience in 15 years. That's the weirdest reason for marriage I've ever heard. You married me for student loan forgiveness. I haven't married you yet. Semantics. Actually, legally significant. He pulled something from his pocket. A small, worn photograph of a young woman in a wedding dress. She looked terrified. That's her? Tiana asked. Yes, she never smiled, not once in 6 months. She was scared of me, of my family, of everything. I'm scared of your family. But you tell my mother she's wrong. She is wrong. Last week she said pizza wasn't a breakfast food. You eat pizza for breakfast? Cold pizza is a perfectly valid breakfast. Don't judge me. He smiled then, actually smiled, and Tiana realized she'd never seen him do that before. It transformed his whole face from intimidating mob boss to intimidating mob boss who might occasionally enjoy puppies. That, he said, that right there, you're not scared to be yourself. I'm literally hiding in a closet eating cake, and it's the most honest thing anyone's done at this wedding. The wedding hasn't started yet. Exactly my point. Tiana looked at him, really looked at him, the sharp features that probably haunted his enemy's nightmares, the dark eyes that had seen things she couldn't imagine, the perfectly tailored tuxedo that probably had hidden pockets for weapons or possibly emergency sake. Did you really propose for business? She asked quietly. Initially, yes. Your father's debt was convenient. My mother was pressuring me to remarry. You were beautiful and didn't know who I was. It made sense. That's romantic, she said sarcastically. But then you said yes to dinner, and you showed up wearing a dress that was inside out. The tag was scratchy, and you ordered chicken fingers at a 5-star restaurant. They had them on the kids' menu. I asked nicely. And when that waiter spilled wine on you, you laughed instead of demanding he be fired. Accidents happen. Not in my world, they don't. In my world, accidents get people killed. But in yours, accidents are just funny stories. He paused. I want to live in your world, Tiana. Even if it means eating chicken fingers and hearing about Mr. Henderson's bedpan incidents. Mr. Henderson sends his regards, by the way. He's behaving much better in his new facility. I may have implied consequences if he didn't. You threatened an 80-year-old man? I suggested he might prefer an Alaskan facility. Alaska isn't a threat. It is if you hate snow. Patricia cleared her throat. This is very sweet and also deeply concerning, but the wedding starts in 3 hours. I need to know, Tiana said, looking at Ryu. If I marry you, am I going to die in a car bomb? No. How can you be sure? Because I've had 17 people working on your security for the past month. You have bodyguards you don't even know about. Derek is just the obvious one. His name is Shadow Wolf, came Derek's voice from somewhere in the hallway. How long have you been there? Tiana yelled. The whole time. The closet has excellent acoustics. I'm going to die of embarrassment before any rival family gets me. See? Ryu said. You're already thinking practically about death. You'll fit right in. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. He stood up, offering her his hand. So, are you going to marry me? You're asking me now? In a closet? Covered in cake? I proposed in an emergency room after 37 seconds. My romance timing has always been questionable. Allegedly questionable, Tiana muttered, but she took his hand. He pulled her up, and suddenly they were very close in the small space, surrounded by coats and poor decisions. I can't promise normal, he said quietly. I can't promise safe. I can't even promise my mother will stop planning your burial. But I can promise that I will never lie to you about what this is. And what this is a mess. A beautiful, dangerous, allegedly criminal mess. You're terrible at proposals. You're terrible at saying no. I hate you. Allegedly. And then he kissed her, right there in the coat closet, with her mother watching, and Jasmine filming, and Derek providing commentary from the hallway, and the taste of wedding cake between them. When they broke apart, Tiana sighed. Fine, but I'm keeping my job. I own the hospital. I'm keeping my job at your hospital. Fair enough. And no more surprise purchases of medical facilities. What about educational facilities? Why would you buy those? Your student loans are paid off. But Jasmine mentioned she has some. You're not buying a university. Too late. I closed the deal this morning. You! Consider it a wedding present. To Jasmine! She's your maid of honor. It seemed appropriate. From the hallway, Jasmine shrieked, I'm debt-free? You're all insane, Tiana said. But you're marrying me anyway, Ryu pointed out. Allegedly marrying you. I could still run. Where? Alaska? That's my threat. Get your own. Fine, Nebraska. That's worse than Alaska. Exactly. I'm already learning. Patricia wiped her eyes. My baby's getting married to a crime lord. Alleged crime lord, everyone chorused. I need a drink, Tiana announced. The reception has an open bar, Ryu said. We have to get married first. Minor detail. Major detail, he smiled again. And Tiana realized she was in serious trouble. Not the cement shoes kind, probably, but the kind where she was actually falling for this ridiculous, dangerous, cake-interrupting man. 3 hours, she said, and then you're stuck with me. I'm counting on it. As they left the closet, Michiko appeared from nowhere like a pearl-wearing ninja. Good, she said. You've resolved your emotional crisis. Now get dressed. The doves are getting impatient and Steve can only control them for so long. How is Steve controlling them? Tiana asked. We don't ask questions we don't want answered, Michiko replied. And that, Tiana thought, was probably good advice for her entire marriage. Tiana Williams had been married for exactly 2 weeks, and she was discovering that being Mrs. Yamamoto came with some unexpected perks. For instance, she never had to wait in line anywhere. Also, people were terrified of her, which was surprisingly convenient when dealing with parking enforcement. Ma'am, you can't park here, the meter maid had said that morning. Tiana had just stared at her, channeling her inner Michiko. The meter maid had paled. Actually, you know what? This is fine. Park wherever you want. Forever. The power is intoxicating, Tiana told Jasmine over FaceTime. Girl, you're becoming one of them. I threatened someone with a look today and they gave me free parking. That's definitely mob wife behavior. Alleged mob wife behavior. The problem, and there were several problems, honestly, was that Tiana was starting to actually enjoy being married to Ryu, which was concerning on multiple levels, mainly because he was still very much involved in business that required quotation marks and probably several lawyers. He'd come home last night with blood on his shirt. Is that yours? She'd asked, trying to stay calm. Define yours. The blood currently on your Armani shirt. Allegedly Armani. It has the label showing. Then allegedly my blood. She'd made him strip in the entryway while she examined him for wounds. There were none, which meant the blood was someone else's, which was somehow worse. I don't want to know, she'd said. That's very wise. But I'm going to ask anyway. That's very you. He'd explained, in the vaguest terms possible, that there'd been a disagreement with a business associate about financial discrepancies, which Tiana translated to. Someone tried to steal from the Yakuza and learned a valuable lesson about compound interest and broken kneecaps. You can't just go around breaking people's kneecaps, she'd said. I didn't break anyone's kneecaps. Oh, good. Ken did. I just supervised. That's not better. But then he'd kissed her forehead and said, I'm sorry I worried you. And damn it, her stupid heart had done a stupid flutter thing that was definitely going to get her killed. The real problem started when she realized she was jealous. Actual, honest-to-God jealous, which was ridiculous because Ryu barely looked at other women. He barely looked at anyone except her and occasionally Ken when giving murder instructions. Alleged murder instructions. It happened at a charity gala, because apparently, crime lords did charity, when a woman in a dress that cost more than a car approached Ryu. "Yamamoto-san," she'd purred in perfect Japanese. "It's been too long." Tiana didn't speak Japanese, but she knew flirting in any language. "Akari," Ryu had said neutrally. "This is my wife, Tiana." Wife? Akari had looked at Tiana like she was a particularly disappointing appetizer. "How American." "Thank you," Tiana had said brightly, because she knew that wasn't a compliment. "I meant it as a compliment? So sweet. I love being American. We invented jazz and saying exactly what we mean. So let me be clear. Back off my husband, or I'll ensure your next charity event is a funeral. Yours." The words had come out of her mouth before her brain could stop them. Ryu had choked on his champagne. Ken had looked impressed. Akari had actually stepped back. "I see," Akari had said carefully. "How direct. That's the American way." After she'd left, Ryu had stared at Tiana. "Did you just threaten her?" "Maybe. With death?" "Allegedly." That was... He'd paused, and his eyes had gone dark in a way that made Tiana's stomach flip. "Incredibly attractive." "Yeah?" "I'm rethinking my entire stance on public displays of affection." "We're at a charity gala." "I own the venue. I can do what I want." He'd kissed her right there, in front of 2 senators, a movie star, and someone who was definitely in waste management. And Tiana had forgotten why she was supposed to be upset. This was the problem. She was falling for him, actually falling. And he was still a criminal, an alleged criminal who looked really good in a tuxedo and occasionally came home with other people's blood on his shirts. "I need therapy," she told Jasmine the next day. "You need Jesus." "Can I have both?" "Girl, you threatened someone at a charity event. She was flirting with my husband." "Your husband is a crime lord. Alleged crime lord. You're saying alleged automatically now. That's concerning." Jasmine had a point. The thing was, Ryu was surprisingly sweet when he wasn't being terrifying. Like how he'd learned to make her grandmother's mac and cheese himself because the chef was putting too much truffle oil in it and ruining the integrity of the processed cheese product. Or how he'd banned all morning meetings because she wasn't a morning person, and my wife's comfort is more important than drug shipments. "Drug shipments?" she'd shrieked. "Did I say drug shipments? I meant rug shipments. We import rugs." "Rugs?" "Very expensive rugs. From the Orient. That's still what we call it in the rug business." "I don't believe you." "That's very perceptive." Or like last week, when she'd had a terrible day at work. Mr. Henderson had returned and immediately threw a bedpan, this time with better aim, and she'd come home to find Ryu had set up an entire spa in their bathroom. Candles, bath bombs, the works. "You did this?" she'd asked, surprised. "Ken helped." "Ken knows about bath bombs?" "Ken is a man of many talents," Ken had called from somewhere in the apartment. "Are you always here?" Tiana had yelled back. "Only when you notice." She'd soaked in the tub while Ryu sat on the bathroom floor, still in his suit, telling her about his day, which involved something about importing and exporting, and creative accounting, and definitely crimes. "You can't tell me about crimes while I'm in the bath," she'd protested. "Why not?" "It's unsanitary." "Crime is unsanitary?" "Morally unsanitary. That's not a real thing." "It is now." He'd smiled, actually smiled, which he was doing more of lately, and she'd thrown a bath bomb at him. He'd caught it because of course he had reflexes like a ninja, and thrown it back. It had landed in the tub, fizzing dramatically. That was a $15 bath bomb, she'd said. I'll buy you more. You can't solve everything with money. Watch me. The next day, 17 boxes of bath bombs had arrived. Jasmine had posted it on Instagram with the caption, "When your alleged mob boss husband takes bath time seriously." Hashtag Mafia Nurse Wife, hashtag Bath Bomb Goals. It got 2 million likes. But the real moment, the one that made Tiana realize she was in serious trouble, happened 3 days ago. She'd been working a night shift when a patient came in with a gunshot wound. The man was bleeding out, barely conscious, and when she'd leaned in to assess the damage, he'd grabbed her wrist. "Yamamoto," he'd whispered. "Tell him, the Tanaka family, they're coming." Then he'd died, right there. And Tiana had stood in shock while the code team tried to revive him. She'd called Ryu immediately. "Someone just died and said your name," she'd said. "Did he say anything else?" "Something about the Tanaka family coming." There was a long pause. "Are you still at the hospital?" "Yes, but—" "Ken is 3 minutes away. Don't leave the building. Don't talk to anyone. Don't—" "Ryu, what's happening?" "The Tanaka family is our biggest rival. If they're making a move," he'd stopped. "I'm coming to get you. I have 4 more hours on my shift. Your shift is over. You can't just—" "I own the hospital. Your shift is over." He'd arrived in 15 minutes, which meant he'd definitely broken several traffic laws and possibly run over a mailbox. He'd walked into the ER like an avenging angel in a 3-piece suit, Ken and 2 other bodyguards flanking him. "We're leaving," he'd said. "I have patients. I've called in replacements. You can't just—" He'd pulled her close, right there in the middle of the emergency room, and kissed her like it might be the last time. When he'd pulled back, his eyes were intense. "I can't lose you," he'd said quietly. "I won't." And Tiana had realized she didn't want to lose him either. Even if he was a criminal, even if his world was dangerous, even if his mother was still planning her funeral with disturbing enthusiasm. "I'm not going anywhere," she'd said. "Promise?" "I promise, but you have to promise something too. Anything. No more mysterious deaths related to your name. I can't handle that during work hours. I'll try to keep the murders to evenings and weekends." Alleged murders. Right. Alleged. Now, 2 weeks into marriage, Tiana was lying in bed at 2 a.m., watching Ryu sleep. He looked different when he slept. Less terrifying mob boss, and more regular human who occasionally committed felonies. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. She shouldn't look. She absolutely should not look. She looked. A text from someone named Dragon. "The shipment arrives Thursday. Tanaka family suspects nothing." Another from Phoenix. 3 targets eliminated. Awaiting further instructions. One from Steve. "The Doves miss you. Also, I think I'm in the Yakuza now? It's unclear. Benefits are great, though." She put the phone down, her heart racing. This was her life now. Mysterious shipments. Eliminated targets. Steve's career pivot into organized crime. Ryu's eyes opened, immediately alert. "What's wrong?" "Your phone buzzed." "And you looked?" "I have boundary issues." "I've noticed." "Are you mad?" He pulled her closer. "No, I told you I wouldn't lie about what this is." "What is this, Ryu?" "A mess. A beautiful mess where you threaten socialites at charity events and I commit allegedly illegal acts to keep you safe. That's not a healthy relationship dynamic. Probably not. Definitely not." "But—" She kissed him, because words were too complicated, and her heart was making decisions her brain violently disagreed with. When she pulled back, she sighed. "But I love you anyway. God help me, I actually love you." He smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Good. Because I bought you Nebraska." "What?" "The state. I bought it." "You can't buy a state." Not the whole state, just significant portions. You said you'd run away to Nebraska. That was a joke. I'm very literal. You're very insane. But you love me anyway. Allegedly, she muttered, but she was smiling. From somewhere in the apartment, Ken called, "Congratulations on the emotional breakthrough. I'm still here, by the way." "Rent an apartment, Ken," they both yelled. "This one's nicer." As Tiana settled back into Ryu's arms, listening to him explain his Nebraska real estate purchases, she realized she'd stopped caring about Normal. Normal was boring. Normal didn't buy states, or have enthusiastic bodyguards, or threaten people with Alaska. Normal didn't make her heart race like this. Even if it would probably get her killed, allegedly. Tiana Williams was having a perfectly normal Tuesday, which should have been her first clue that something terrible was about to happen. In her experience, normal Tuesdays in the Yamamoto household usually involved at least one mysterious phone call, 2 cryptic conversations about shipments, and Ken eating all the good cereal. She was at the hospital, checking on Mrs. Chen, who had somehow survived another surgery despite her insistence on sneaking contraband dumplings into the ICU. "Mrs. Chen, you can't have pork buns after heart surgery," Tiana said, confiscating a suspiciously lumpy pillowcase. "They're medicinal. They're 60% grease. That's the medicinal part." Everything was fine. Completely normal. Just another day of arguing with elderly patients about cardiovascular health and appropriate recovery foods. Then Derek, Shadow Wolf, burst into the room looking more agitated than the time someone had drunk his protein shake. "Mrs. Yamamoto, we need to leave, now." "I'm working," Tiana said. "And stop calling me that. It makes me sound like Michiko." Mrs. Yamamoto the younger. Worse. "Ma'am, this isn't a request." Something in his voice made Tiana's stomach drop. Derek never sounded serious. Last week he'd been attacked by a rival gang member, and his main concern was whether his hair looked okay during the fight. "What's wrong?" she asked. "The Tanaka family just sent a message." "What kind of message?" "The kind that involves your favorite coffee shop no longer existing." "They blew up Java Joe's?" To be fair, the coffee was overpriced. "They blew up my coffee shop?" Mrs. Chen perked up from her hospital bed. "Ooh, drama! Better than my stories." "Not now, Mrs. Chen." Derek was already ushering her toward the door when her phone rang. It was Ryu, and she could hear multiple voices shouting in the background, which was never a good sign. "Are you with Derek?" he asked without preamble. "Yes, and apparently my coffee shop is gone." "I'll buy you another one." "You can't just replace Java Joe's. They knew my order. They spelled my name right." "Tiana, focus. The Tanaka family is making a move. A big one." "How big?" "They've put a bounty on you." The hallway suddenly felt very cold. "A bounty? Like a money bounty? For me?" $5 million. "I'm worth $5 million? I told them that was insulting." "You're worth at least $8 million. That's not the reassuring part you think it is." "I'm coming to get you." "Stay with Derek. Don't talk to anyone. Don't trust anyone. Don't even trust the vending machines." "Why would I trust a vending machine?" "Last month the Yakuza used one to smuggle weapons." "Which Yakuza?" "Us. Allegedly." "Why you?" He'd already hung up. Derek had multiplied somehow. There were now 6 bodyguards surrounding her, all wearing the same black suits and serious expressions that suggested they'd watched too many action movies and taken notes. "Guys, this is a hospital," Tiana said. "You're scaring the patients." "Better scared than dead," one of them replied. "That's not the hospital's motto." They escorted her through the hallways like she was the president, which would have been flattering if it wasn't completely terrifying. Nurses stared. Patients whispered. Dr. Mike saw the procession and immediately turned around and walked the other way, which was probably smart. "I have 3 more hours on my shift," Tiana protested. "Your shift is permanently over," Derek said. "What?" "Mr. Yamamoto has requested you stop working." "He what now?" For your safety, he thinks it's best if you remain at the penthouse under 24-hour protection until the Tanaka situation is resolved. The Tanaka situation? Is that what we're calling people trying to kill me? We considered calling it the unfortunate misunderstanding, but that seemed too optimistic. They made it to the parking garage, where Ryu's Bentley was waiting, except it wasn't alone. There were 3 identical black SUVs, 2 motorcycles, and what appeared to be an armored truck. Is that a tank? Tiana asked. Armored personnel carrier, Derek corrected. That's basically a tank. Tanks have bigger guns. Not reassuring. They loaded her into the middle SUV, with bodyguards surrounding her like very well-dressed sandbags. As they pulled out of the garage, Tiana noticed they had a police escort. Did you call the police? She asked Derek. Mr. Yamamoto owns the police. You can't own the police. He prefers the term, has a mutually beneficial relationship with law enforcement. That's corruption. That's networking. The drive home took 30 minutes, which was impressive considering they ran every red light and possibly drove through someone's yard. When they arrived at the penthouse, Ryu was waiting in the lobby with Ken and approximately 17 other people who looked like they ate danger for breakfast and violence for lunch. He pulled her into his arms the moment she stepped out of the SUV, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. I can't breathe, she wheezed. Better suffocated than kidnapped, he muttered into her hair. That's a terrible motto. He pulled back, and she saw something in his eyes she'd never seen before. Fear. Actual, genuine fear. The Tanaka family doesn't make idle threats, he said quietly. If they've put a bounty on you, every criminal in the city will be looking for you. Every criminal? And some enthusiastic amateurs. The bounty is trending on the dark web. There's a dark web bounty? Do I get royalties? This isn't funny, Tiana. I'm aware. My coffee shop exploded. There's a bounty on my head. I'm making jokes because otherwise I'm going to have a breakdown in this very expensive lobby. He cupped her face in his hands. I won't let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. Watch me. They went up to the penthouse, which had been transformed into something resembling a military command center. There were computers everywhere, people speaking urgently into phones in multiple languages, and a giant map of the city with red pins that definitely marked something ominous. Is that where the Tanaka family is? Tiana asked, pointing at the map. That's where they were, Ryu corrected. We're tracking their movements in real time. How? It's better if you don't know. Illegal surveillance? Allegedly illegal surveillance. Michiko emerged from the kitchen, because apparently even during active threats from rival crime families, she still made house calls. She was wearing pearls and holding a teacup like this was a casual afternoon visit. Oh good, you're alive, she said to Tiana. Thanks for the warm concern. I already planned your funeral, it seemed efficient. I'm not dead yet. Yet is the operative word, Michiko said, sipping her tea. The Tanaka family is very thorough. When they killed my cousin, they sent a gift basket to the funeral. Very nice basket. Expensive fruits. That's horrifying. That's good manners. Ryu's phone rang. He answered it, listened for a moment, then his expression went from concerned to absolutely murderous. When? He asked in a voice that made everyone in the room freeze. He hung up and turned to Ken. They hit 3 of our warehouses. The shipments are gone. Which shipments? Ken asked. All of them. The rugs? Tiana asked hopefully. Not rugs, Ryu said tersely. Never rugs, Ken added. Definitely not rugs, Derek chimed in. So drugs? Tiana asked. Why does everyone assume drugs? Ryu snapped. We have diverse business interests. Name one legal business interest. The pizza restaurants. That's one. I own a hospital. That you use for money laundering. Alleged money laundering. Another phone rang. then another. Suddenly, everyone was answering phones, and none of the conversations sounded good. Tiana caught phrases like, 15 men down, the docks are compromised, and someone tell Steve to stop live tweeting this. Steve is live tweeting? Tiana grabbed her phone and checked Twitter. Sure enough, Steve had started a thread. Guys, the Tanaka family is attacking. This is so cool. Hashtag Yakuza Wars, hashtag Mafia Life, / Steve Summer Intern. He hashtagged himself as a summer intern, Tiana showed Ryu. I'm going to kill him, Ryu muttered. After the Tanaka family? During. I can multitask. The elevator dinged, and everyone pulled out guns. Actual guns. So many guns. Tiana hadn't realized the penthouse had been full of armed people, but apparently everyone was strapped, as the kids said. The doors opened to reveal Jasmine, holding takeout bags and looking confused. Why does everyone have guns? She asked. Jasmine, Tiana ran over. What are you doing here? You texted me to bring Thai food. I didn't text you. They both looked at Jasmine's phone. The text had come from Tiana's number, but Tiana definitely hadn't sent it. That's not good, Derek said. That's very not good, Ken agreed. Ryu grabbed Tiana's phone, examining it. They cloned your number. They knew Jasmine would come. They're probably watching the building right now. As if on cue, every window in the penthouse shattered simultaneously. Everyone hit the floor. Glass rained down like very expensive, very dangerous confetti. Tiana found herself tackled by 3 different bodyguards, all trying to shield her with their bodies. I can't breathe, she yelled. Better suffocated than shot, Derek yelled back. Why does everyone keep saying that? When the glass stopped falling, Ryu army crawled over to her. Are you hurt? Only my dignity. He pulled her up, checking her for injuries with the kind of thoroughness usually reserved for airport security. We need to leave. Now. Where are we going? Safe house. You have a safe house? I have 17 safe houses. Of course you do. More gunfire erupted from somewhere below. The building's fire alarm started blaring. Someone's phone kept ringing with a ringtone that was, inexplicably, Baby Shark. Is that Steve's phone? Tiana asked. He thinks it's ironic, Ken yelled over the chaos. They moved toward the emergency exit, surrounded by bodyguards who looked significantly more alert than usual. Halfway down the stairs, Derek's phone buzzed. Sir, he said to Ryu, the Tanaka family just posted a video. What kind of video? Derek showed them. On his phone screen, the head of the Tanaka family, a man who looked like he'd been carved from stone and bad decisions, smiled at the camera. Yamamoto Ryu, he said in Japanese, helpfully subtitled in English. You took something from us. Now we're taking everything from you, starting with your wife. The video cut to footage of Tiana at the hospital, at the grocery store, at Java Joe's before it exploded. They've been following me, Tiana whispered. For weeks, Ryu said, his jaw clenched so tight it could probably crack diamonds. This was planned. What do they want? War, he said simply, and they're using you to get it. They made it to the parking garage, where an entire convoy of vehicles was waiting. As they loaded into the lead SUV, explosions echoed from somewhere in the building. Was that the penthouse? Tiana asked. Probably, Ryu said. You don't seem concerned. I have insurance, very good insurance. Possibly fraudulent insurance, but insurance nonetheless. As they sped away from the building, Tiana looked back to see smoke rising from the top floors. Her home, their home, gone. I liked that apartment, she said quietly. I'll buy another one, Ryu replied, but his voice was tight. Can we not be attacked in the next one? I'll add that to the realtor requirements. Jasmine, squished between 2 bodyguards in the back row, raised her hand. Quick question, am I in the mob now? Yes, everyone said simultaneously. Cool, do I get a code name? We'll workshop it, Derek promised. As they drove through the city, taking random turns and doubling back to lose potential tails, Tiana's phone buzzed. An unknown number. Don't answer it, Ryu said. She answered it anyway. Hello, Mrs. Yamamoto, a smooth voice said in English. This is Tanaka Hiroshi. I believe we should talk. Ryu grabbed the phone. You blew up my house. Consider it a conversation starter, Tanaka replied. You have something I want. I have someone you want. Let's make a trade. I don't negotiate with terrorists. But you'll negotiate with rival crime families? That's different. How? We have better lawyers, Tanaka laughed. 24 hours, Yamamoto. Then I stop being polite and start being creative. And trust me, you don't want to see me be creative. He hung up. The SUV was silent except for the sound of tires on asphalt and Jasmine nervously eating Thai food. So, Tiana finally said, on a scale of 1 to completely screwed, where are we? Ryu looked at her, and despite everything, he smiled. Completely screwed. But together. That's romantic in a very dysfunctional way. That's us. Ken cleared his throat from the driver's seat. Sir, we have another problem. What now? Steve Liv tweeted our location. We're trending, again. I'm definitely killing him, Ryu muttered. Can I watch? Derek asked. As they sped toward an unknown safe house, with enemies closing in, and Steve's Twitter incompetence potentially dooming them all, Tiana realized her quiet life as a nurse was officially, completely, irrevocably over. But at least the Thai food was good. Small victories. The safe house turned out to be a mansion in the Hamptons, because apparently when crime lords said safe house, they meant palatial estate with a wine cellar and panic room. This is your idea of hiding? Tiana asked, staring at the fountain in the front yard that was definitely worth more than her nursing degree. We're hiding in plain sight, Ryu explained. We're hiding in a house that has a fountain. It's a very discreet fountain. It has dolphins. Dolphins are not discreet. They'd been there for 6 hours, and Tiana was losing her mind, not from fear, though there was plenty of that, but from boredom. Apparently, being hunted by a rival crime family involved a lot of sitting around while men in suits talked urgently into phones. I should be at work, she muttered, pacing the marble foyer for the 17th time. You're wanted by every criminal in the tri-state area, Jasmine pointed out. She'd made herself comfortable on a velvet couch that probably cost more than a car, eating the Thai food that had somehow survived the evacuation. Work seems low priority. Mr. Henderson needs his medications administered at specific times. I'm sure the Harvard-trained nurses can handle it. They don't know he prefers his pills with apple juice, not water. That feels like information they can figure out. Ryu was in what he called the strategy room, which was actually just a library with computers and several men who looked like they'd majored in violence with a minor in expensive suits. Through the open door, Tiana could hear him arguing with someone in rapid Japanese. Ken appeared at her elbow because he always appeared at people's elbows. It was his thing. Mrs. Yamamoto, stop calling me that. The younger, he continued smoothly. Mr. Yamamoto requests your presence. Is he going to tell me we need to flee to another safe house? Because I'm running out of small talk for the bodyguards. Derek appreciates your questions about his hair care routine. Shadow Wolf, Derek called from his position by the window. And it's a 7-step process. Healthy hair doesn't happen by accident. The strategy room was full of serious-looking men studying maps and discussing things like perimeter security and tactical advantages, and whether Steve should be banned from all social media forever. He posted a selfie from the car, one of them was saying, with the license plate visible, and a geotag. I'm killing him, Ryu said flatly, slowly, with paperwork. That seems excessive, Tiana said, entering the room. Everyone turned to look at her. And she was reminded that she was wearing yoga pants and a hospital sweatshirt that said, "Nurses do it better," while surrounded by men in suits that cost more than her monthly salary used to be. We have a situation, Ryu said. We've had a situation for 6 hours. A new situation. Tanaka made contact again. He pulled up a video on one of the monitors. Tanaka Hiroshi appeared on screen, sitting in what looked like a very nice office, probably also paid for with crime money. Yamamoto, he said pleasantly, like they were old friends discussing brunch plans instead of mortal enemies discussing murder. I hope you're enjoying the Hamptons house. The dolphins are tacky, by the way. I've been telling you that for years. How does he know about the dolphins? Tiana whispered. He probably has surveillance everywhere, Ryu muttered. That's illegal. So is blowing up coffee shops, but here we are. On screen, Tanaka continued. I have a proposal. You give me the shipment you stole from the docks. We didn't steal anything, Ryu interrupted, even though it was a recording. And I'll consider not killing your wife. Notice I said consider. I'm not making promises. That's a terrible negotiation strategy, Tiana observed. Also, I've acquired something you might want back. Tanaka gestured off-screen, and someone dragged a tied-up figure into view. Is that Steve? Jasmine shrieked. It was indeed Steve, bound to a chair but somehow still holding his phone. Guys, Steve said cheerfully, I've been kidnapped. This is amazing. The production value on this whole thing is incredible. These guys even gave me snacks. He held up what appeared to be a granola bar. They gave him snacks? Derek sounded offended. When the Petrov family kidnapped me last year, I didn't get snacks. Different organizations have different hospitality standards, Ken said seriously. That's not the point, Tiana yelled. They kidnapped Steve. You have 12 hours, Tanaka said on the video. Meet me at the old warehouse on Pier 47, bring the shipment, come alone, or Steve becomes shark food. He paused. Is that the right phrase? Shark food? My English idioms are rusty. Fish food, Steve called helpfully. The phrase is fish food, though technically sharks are fish, so you're not wrong. The video cut off. The room was silent except for the sound of someone typing and Derek muttering about snack inequality. We have to save him, Tiana said. Absolutely not, Ryu replied. It's obviously a trap. He's your employee. He's a liability who can't stop posting on social media. He's a human being. Debatable, Ken muttered. Ryu turned to her, and his expression was that particular mixture of exasperated and fond that she'd come to recognize as his, Tiana is making me reconsider my entire worldview, face. If we go to that warehouse, they'll kill us all, he said quietly. If we don't go, they'll kill Steve. He knew the risks when he joined the organization. He thought he was working in restaurant management. He still thinks the Yakuza is a type of sushi. It's not, Derek asked. No. Jasmine stood up, brushing Thai noodle crumbs off her lap. I hate to say it, but Tiana's right. We can't just leave Steve. You can't come, Ryu said immediately. Either of you, it's too dangerous. I'm already in danger, Tiana pointed out. There's a bounty on my head. I'm trending on the dark web. My coffee shop exploded. At this point, what's one more life-threatening situation? That's terrible logic. That's marriage. For better or worse, remember? You said that 2 weeks ago, in front of 500 people and those weird doves that Steve summoned. The doves were a nice touch, Derek said nostalgically. Not helping, Derek, Tiana snapped, then turned back to Ryu. I'm going with you. No. Yes. No. I'm a nurse. If people get shot, and people will definitely get shot, you'll need me. I'll have other doctors. Who know you're in the mob? I'm the only medical professional in your life who didn't sign up for this. You literally married me. Under false pretenses. You said you did business. I do business. Crime business. Ken cleared his throat. If I may interject, Mrs. Yamamoto has a point. Finally, Tiana said. And also, she's going to follow us anyway. She has that look. What look? Tiana demanded. The look that says, I'm going to do something stupid and brave and my husband can't stop me. That's very specific. I've seen it before. My wife had the same look before she left me. There was an awkward pause. That got dark, Jasmine said. We don't talk about it, Ken replied. Ryu studied Tiana for a long moment, and she could see him calculating odds, running scenarios, trying to find a way to keep her safe while also saving Steve's incompetent social media-addicted life. Fine, he finally said, but you stay in the car, behind bulletproof glass, with Derek and 5 other guards. 4 other guards, Derek corrected. Johnson called in sick. He called in sick? We're at war. He has a doctor's note, very legitimate, from the hospital you own. Ryu pinched the bridge of his nose. I'm surrounded by idiots. Alleged idiots, Tiana said sweetly. 3 hours later, they were in a convoy heading back to the city. Ryu had changed into all black, which made him look even more like a dangerous crime lord than usual. He'd tried to make Tiana wear a bulletproof vest. It doesn't fit over my sweatshirt, she'd protested. Take off the sweatshirt. It's my favorite sweatshirt. It's not bulletproof. Neither is most of my wardrobe. Should I just walk around in body armor all the time? Actually, that was rhetorical. They'd compromised. She wore the vest under a jacket that was definitely stolen from one of the bodyguards because it smelled like cologne and protein powder. Pier 47 looked exactly like every movie warehouse where bad things happened. Broken windows, graffiti, excellent mood lighting from the conveniently placed street lamps. In the distance, Tiana could see the water and what might have been a boat, or possibly a very large duck. If that's a duck, I'm leaving, she muttered. It's a boat, Ryu said. Tanaka's escape route. How do you know? Because it's what I would do. That's concerning. The convoy stopped about 50 yards from the warehouse. Ken distributed weapons to everyone except Tiana and Jasmine, though Jasmine looked disappointed about that. I took a self-defense class in college, she offered. That's sweet, Ken said. Very insufficient, but sweet. Ryu's phone buzzed. A text from Tanaka. I see you brought friends. The deal was come alone. Ryu typed back. You kidnapped my social media manager. I'm bringing emotional support. Steve is not your social media manager. He is now. He's very good at engagement, terrible at operational security, but excellent engagement. Just come inside and bring the shipment. Ryu looked at the duffel bag in the trunk. Tiana had no idea what was in it, and she'd decided she didn't want to know. Plausible deniability was her new favorite legal concept. Stay here, he told her. No matter what happens, promise me. I promise, she lied. He knew she was lying. She could tell by the way his jaw tightened, but he also knew there was no time to argue. If I die, he started. You're not dying. If I die, he continued, Ken has instructions. You'll be taken care of. The money is clean, mostly clean, adequately clean. You're not dying, she repeated firmly, because I'm going to be very angry if you die, and you don't want to see me angry. I've seen you angry. You threw a stress ball at my head. Next time it'll be something heavier. He kissed her then, hard and desperate and tasting like fear and expensive coffee. When he pulled back, his eyes were intense. I love you, he said, even though you're stubborn and reckless and have terrible taste in sweatshirts. I love you too, even though you're a criminal with boundary issues and a mother who scares me more than the Tanaka family. That's fair. He grabbed the duffel bag and walked toward the warehouse, flanked by Ken and 6 other men who looked ready to commit various felonies. Tiana watched from the SUV, her heart pounding. He's going to be fine, Derek said from the driver's seat. You can't know that. I can hope that. Hope is free, unlike this SUV, which cost more than most houses. 2 minutes passed, then 5, then 10. Then gunfire erupted from inside the warehouse. "That's not good," Jasmine said. "That's very not good," Derek agreed. More gunfire. Then an explosion. Then what sounded like someone screaming in Japanese. Tiana reached for the door handle. "Mrs. Yamamoto, you promised," Derek said. "I had my fingers crossed." "You can't cross fingers on promises." "Watch me." She was out of the SUV before Derek could stop her, running toward the warehouse like the terrible decision-maker she apparently was. Behind her, she heard Derek yelling into his radio and Jasmine shouting something about girl power, which was sweet but not helpful. The warehouse was chaos. Men in suits were fighting other men in suits, and honestly, Tiana couldn't tell who was on which side. Someone was definitely bleeding. Multiple someones, actually. She found Steve first, still tied to a chair in the corner, filming everything on his phone. "Tiana," he yelled cheerfully. "This is amazing. I'm getting incredible footage. My TikTok is going to be lit. Your TikTok is going to get us killed." She started untying him while ducking the occasional bullet. "Where's Ryu?" "Upstairs with the boss guy. They're having a very intense conversation, lots of hand gestures." She ran for the stairs, ignoring the voice in her head that sounded suspiciously like her mother yelling about poor life choices. On the second floor, she found Ryu and Tanaka facing each other like they were in the world's most dangerous staring contest. "Tiana!" Ryu yelled when he saw her. "I told you to stay in the car. I had my fingers crossed." "That doesn't count." Tanaka looked between them, then actually laughed. "This is your wife? The nurse?" "Yes," Ryu said tightly. "She's terrible at following instructions." "I'm aware." "I like her," Tanaka said, then pulled out a gun. Everything happened very fast. Ryu moved to shield Tiana. Tanaka fired. Someone, Ken, maybe, tackled Tanaka from the side. The gun went flying. More people burst in from everywhere. When the dust settled, Tanaka was on the ground, surrounded by Ryu's men. Ryu was standing, breathing hard, with a cut above his eyebrow but otherwise intact. And Tiana had somehow ended up holding Tanaka's gun, which she'd apparently picked up without thinking. "Put that down before you shoot someone," Ryu said. "I know how to use a gun. We had training at the hospital." For active shooter situations, not being the active shooter. Police sirens wailed in the distance. The corrupt police that Ryu allegedly had relationships with, probably. "We should go," Ken said. "Now." They fled the warehouse like the criminals they definitely were, piling into the SUVs while Steve live-streamed the entire thing. Behind them, the warehouse erupted into flames, because apparently someone had decided arson was the best way to destroy evidence. "Did you set that fire?" Tiana asked Ryu as they sped away. "No." "Then who?" "Steve," Ken said, pointing to the phone screen where Steve had posted. "Accidentally knocked over a lantern during my daring escape. Whoops! Hatch Butterfingers, #warehouse fire, had my bad." "I'm killing him," Ryu said again. "Get in line," Derek muttered. They made it back to a different safe house. This one a penthouse in the city with no dolphins, much to Tiana's relief, before anyone spoke again. "That was stupid," Ryu finally said. "Which part?" Tiana asked. "The part where you promised to stay in the car, and then immediately broke that promise. I saved Steve. Steve saved himself by accidentally committing arson." "Still counts." He pulled her close and she could feel him shaking slightly. "You could have died. But I didn't. This time. We'll worry about next time when it happens." "That's terrible planning. That's marriage." Jasmine cleared her throat. "So, is it over? The Tanaka thing?" "Probably not," Ken said. "Crime families are very persistent. But we made our point." "What point?" "Don't mess with the Yamamotos. We have terrible decision-making skills and questionable employees, but we're very loyal." "That's weirdly touching," Jasmine said. "That's the Yakuza," Derek added. "Allegedly." As they settled into the new safe house, With Steve posting apology videos about the warehouse fire and various bodyguards arguing about who had the most dramatic fight scene, Tiana realized something. This was her life now: car chases and warehouse battles, and a husband who looked unfairly attractive even when covered in soot and crime evidence. And she wouldn't change it for anything. Well, maybe she'd change Steve's social media access. But otherwise, nothing. "I love you," she told Ryu. "Even after the gunfight?" "Especially after the gunfight. You looked very heroic." "I got shot at. Heroically shot at." He smiled and kissed her, and somewhere in the background Steve started live streaming again. "Steve!" everyone yelled. Some things never changed. Allegedly. 3 months after the warehouse incident, which Steve had turned into a viral documentary series that somehow won an award, Tiana Williams Yamamoto was having what could only be described as an identity crisis in the cereal aisle of Whole Foods. "Ma'am, are you okay?" a concerned employee asked, finding her staring blankly at the organic granola. "I'm married to a crime lord. I have 17 bodyguards. My best friend is learning Japanese to better understand the family business. And I just realized I'm out of my favorite cereal because someone," she glared at Derek, who was pretending to examine quinoa, "ate it all." "It's high in fiber," Derek protested. "Shadow Wolf needs regularity." "I'm still not calling you that." The employee slowly backed away. Life after the Tanaka confrontation had been surprisingly normal. Well, normal for a Yakuza wife. The Tanaka family had called a truce after their warehouse burned down, Steve's fault. Their leader got arrested, definitely their fault, and Michiko had apparently played a very intense game of mahjong with Tanaka's mother that resulted in a mutual understanding. "What kind of understanding?" Tiana had asked. "The kind where everyone keeps their kneecaps," Michiko had replied cheerfully. "I don't want to know more, do I?" "Absolutely not, dear." Ryu had compromised on the whole Tiana quitting her job thing by buying the hospital. He already owned it, but now he really owned it. And making her the director of nursing, which sounded impressive until she realized it meant she had to attend board meetings with people who were definitely involved in money laundering. "Is that legal?" she'd asked during her first meeting. "Define legal," the CFO had replied. "Never mind." The bounty on her head had been retracted after Ryu had a conversation with the people who'd posted it. She didn't ask what kind of conversation. She'd learned that some questions were better left unasked, filed under plausible deniability and preserving my sanity. Now, standing in Whole Foods with Derek eating her cereal supply and Jasmine texting her about wedding planning, she was marrying Ken because apparently love bloomed in the strangest places, like during shootouts. Tiana realized she was happy. Stupidly, irrationally, dangerously happy. Her phone rang. It was Ryu. "Where are you?" he asked. "Whole Foods. Derek ate all the cereal, again." "I heard that," Derek called. "You were meant to," she yelled back. "Come home," Ryu said, and something in his voice made her pause. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Just come home." 20 minutes later, after Derek insisted on buying more cereal for the safe house stash, Tiana arrived at their new penthouse. It was bigger than the old one, with better security, and, inexplicably, a room dedicated entirely to Steve's social media equipment. "He's our official communications director now," Ryu had explained. "He set a warehouse on fire. Accidentally, and the fire destroyed evidence. He got a promotion." The penthouse was suspiciously quiet when she walked in. Usually there were at least 5 people having intense phone conversations in various languages, but today it was empty except for rose petals leading from the elevator to the living room. "Ryu?" she called out. "If this is a murder scene, I'm leaving." "It's not a murder scene," his voice came from the living room. She followed the rose petals, which, knowing Ryu, probably cost more than most people's mortgages, to find him standing in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. He'd changed out of his usual intimidating suit into jeans and a t-shirt, which was so rare that Tiana actually stopped walking. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Are those jeans? Do you own jeans?" "I bought them today. Ken said they make me look approachable." Ken was wrong. "You look like a very attractive serial killer having a casual Friday." "I'll take it." He turned to face her, and she saw he was holding a piece of paper. "What's that?" she asked. "Remember when we got married and I told you it was initially a business decision?" "You mean 3 months ago?" "Yes, I have a functional memory." "I may have been lying." "About it being a business decision?" "About it being initially a business decision." He handed her the paper. It was old, worn, dated almost a year before they'd met. It was a hospital intake form from the night his former wife had died. And at the bottom, in the nurse's signature line, was a name: T. Williams. Tiana's hands started shaking. "This was me. I was working that night. I remember this case. Pregnant woman, car accident. We tried everything." She looked up at him. "This was your wife?" He nodded. "You held my hand while they tried to save her. You didn't know who I was. You just saw someone in pain, and you stayed with me. For 3 hours. You bought me terrible coffee from the vending machine and let me talk about nothing and everything." "I remember," she whispered. "You said your name was Ryu, just Ryu. You didn't tell me about the family or the business or any of it. We talked about baseball and your terrible taste in vending machine snacks. You told me that pain doesn't last forever, that I'd survive this. I say that to everyone. It's basic grief counseling. But you meant it. I could tell." He took her hands. "I looked for you after that night. Spent months trying to find the nurse who had kind eyes and said allegedly too much even back then. I've always had a healthy respect for plausible deniability. When I walked into that ER and saw you, it wasn't random. I'd been looking for you. I just didn't expect to propose immediately." "That was insane." "Completely insane," he agreed. "But I saw you and remembered that night and thought, this person made me believe in surviving. Maybe she can make me believe in living." That's the most romantic thing you've ever said. And we're standing in a room full of rose petals that probably cost a fortune. The rose petals cost $8,000. $8,000? They're imported. They're flowers. Imported flowers. She laughed, because what else could she do? This ridiculous, dangerous, surprisingly sweet man had spent $8,000 on flowers and had been looking for her for a year and still couldn't understand why Alaska wasn't an actual threat. "So this whole time," she said slowly, "the proposal, the wedding, my father's debt, all of it, your father's debt was real. That was convenient, but I would have found another way. I've been trying to find you since that night. I just didn't expect you to throw a stress ball at my head when I finally did." "I told you that was an accident." "I know. That made it better." He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, different from the one he'd given her at the wedding. This one was simpler, more delicate, with a small inscription inside. "Day 1, you survived. Day 2, you lived." "That's what I told you," Tiana said, tears starting to form. "That night in the hospital. I had it engraved. I was going to give it to you when I found you. Then I got impatient and proposed with the family ring instead." "The one that's the size of a golf ball?" "Tradition demanded it." "But this one," he slipped it onto her other hand. "This one is just from me. Not the family, not the business. Just Ryu asking Tiana if she'll stay married to him, knowing everything now." "That's not how marriage works. We're already married." "Humor me." She looked at the ring, at him, at the stupid expensive rose petals and the city spread out behind him like something from a movie about people who made terrible decisions but looked good doing it. "Yes," she said. "I'll stay married to you, even though you're in the Yakuza, allegedly. And your mother is terrifying, and Steve is our communications director, and Derek ate all my cereal, and we almost died multiple times, and our wedding has its own Wikipedia page. It does? Steve made it. It's very detailed, possibly too detailed. There are citations. I'm not sure if I should be proud or concerned. Both. Definitely both. He kissed her, and it was different from all the other kisses. Softer, less desperate. Like they finally had time. Like they weren't running from anything or toward anything, just existing in this moment of expensive flowers and honest confessions. The elevator dinged. They broke apart to find Michiko standing there, holding a binder. "Oh, good. You're both here," she said. "We need to discuss the baby." "What baby?" Tiana and Ryu yelled simultaneously. "The one you'll have. Eventually. I'm planning ahead. I've selected 17 excellent names, all with proper meaning and cultural significance." "Mother, we've been married 3 months." "Exactly. You're behind schedule. Your cousin had twins by month 4. That's not how pregnancy works." Not with that attitude. She opened her binder, revealing what appeared to be a comprehensive family planning guide, with charts, graphs, and what might have been a genetic lineage tree. "I hate to interrupt," Ken said, appearing from the stairs. When had he gotten there? "But we have a situation." "What kind of situation?" Ryu asked wearily. "The Petrov family is requesting a meeting." "The Russian mob?" "Allegedly Russian mob. They prefer Eastern European business collective." "Everyone's allegedly something," Tiana muttered. "They want to discuss a partnership." "What kind of partnership?" Ken pulled out his phone, showing them a message. "We hear your communications director is very effective. We'd like to borrow him." "They want Steve?" Tiana asked. "His TikTok has 5 million followers. Apparently, he's revolutionizing crime family public relations." "Crime families have public relations?" "Everyone has public relations, dear," Michiko said. "Even allegedly criminal enterprises need good optics." The elevator dinged again. This time it was Jasmine, wearing what appeared to be a bulletproof vest bedazzled with crystals. "Is this appropriate for meeting Ken's family?" she asked. "You bedazzled body armor?" Tiana asked. "If I'm going to potentially die, I'm going to look fabulous doing it." "That's the spirit," Michiko said approvingly. Then Steve appeared from the social media room holding his phone. Guys, we're trending again. Someone made a fan edit of the warehouse fight set to Taylor Swift." "Which song?" Derek asked, appearing from wherever Derek appeared from. "Look what you made me do. It's very on brand." "I need a drink," Ryu muttered. "It's 2 p.m., Tiana said. "I'm aware." As the penthouse filled with people, bodyguards discussing security, Michiko planning babies that didn't exist yet, Steve live-streaming everything, Jasmine modeling bedazzled body armor, and Ken trying to schedule meetings with Russian mobsters. Tiana looked at Ryu. "This is insane," she said. "Completely insane," he agreed. "Our life is a circus. An allegedly criminal circus. I wouldn't change it for anything. Not even for Normal? Normal is boring. Normal doesn't have imported rose petals or mothers-in-law with funeral binders or communications directors who accidentally commit arson." "That's fair." 6 months later, Tiana stood in front of the mirror in their bedroom, staring at her reflection. The bathroom test sat on the counter behind her, showing 2 very clear lines. "You've been in there for 20 minutes, Ryu called from the bedroom. "Are you okay?" Define okay. He opened the door, saw the test, and his eyes went wide. "Is that?" "Yes." "Are we?" "Yes." "Should I?" "If you say call my mother, I'm divorcing you." He laughed, pulled her close, and kissed the top of her head. "I was going to say panic, but calling my mother is also terrifying. She already has 17 names picked out. She's going to be insufferable. She's already insufferable. This just gives her focus." From somewhere in the penthouse, they heard a crash, followed by Steve yelling, "That wasn't my fault!" "Should we check on that?" Tiana asked. "Probably. Are we going to?" "Absolutely not." They stood there holding each other, listening to the chaos of their life. Derek arguing with someone about protein powder, Ken on the phone with what was definitely a criminal organization, Jasmine practicing her wedding vows in a bulletproof dress, and Steve doing whatever Steve did that resulted in property damage and viral videos. "We're having a baby," Tiana said quietly, "in this chaos. In this beautiful, dangerous, allegedly criminal chaos. Are you scared?" "Terrified." "Good, me too. But I survived losing everything once, and then you taught me how to live again. So whatever comes next, rival families, my mother's baby binder, Steve's inevitable social media disasters, we'll handle it. Together? Together." The elevator dinged. Michiko's voice rang out. "I know you're pregnant. A mother knows these things. I've already contacted the best pediatricians. Also, I'm moving in." "She's not moving in," Ryu said firmly. "She's definitely moving in," Tiana replied. "I hate everything." "No, you don't." Allegedly. As they walked out to face Michiko and her baby binder and the rest of their chaotic, wonderful, probably illegal family, Tiana realized something. That night in the hospital a year ago, she'd told a grieving stranger that he'd survive. She'd been right, but more than that, they were both finally truly living. Even if living involved Yakuza politics, social media disasters, mothers-in-law with opinions, and bodyguards who ate all the cereal, especially because of those things. "I love you," she told Ryu as Michiko descended upon them with her binder and impossibly strong opinions about prenatal vitamins. "I love you too," he said. "Even though you're stubborn and reckless, and somehow made me care about things like cereal preferences and hospital regulations. That's character growth. That's Stockholm Syndrome. Allegedly." And as Steve live-streamed Michiko's baby planning presentation, which immediately went viral, and Derek argued that Shadow Wolf was an excellent baby name, it wasn't, and Ken quietly placed bets on how long before Tiana banned everyone from the apartment, odds were good. Tiana Williams Yamamoto smiled. Her quiet life as a nurse was gone, but this loud, chaotic, allegedly criminal life? This was so much better. Allegedly. Epilogue. 1 year later, Tiana sat in the nursery of their new house. Michiko had demanded they move somewhere appropriate for raising a Yamamoto heir, rocking her daughter back to sleep. Akari, named after the woman Tiana had threatened at the charity gala because Ryu had a weird sense of humor, was 3 months old and already had 17 bodyguards who took shifts watching her sleep. "That's excessive," Tiana had said. "That's appropriate," Michiko had countered. Through the baby monitor, she could hear Ryu in the kitchen arguing with Steve about the baby's Instagram account. "She's 3 months old. She doesn't need social media. She has 2 million followers. She's an influencer. She can't even hold her head up. That's what makes her relatable." Tiana smiled. Her student loans were paid off. Her coffee shop had been rebuilt, and she owned it now because Ryu had opinions about proper espresso. Mr. Henderson sent cards from his new facility, where he'd apparently stopped throwing bedpans and started a garden. And every night, she went to sleep next to a man who'd bought her Nebraska, portions of it, threatened people with Alaska, and had searched for her for a year just to say thank you. Her mother called it a miracle. Michiko called it destiny. Steve called it excellent content. Tiana called it love, allegedly, but probably actually, definitely. The end hook. 3 weeks ago, a stranger proposed to Tiana in 37 seconds. She said yes. And now the deadliest crime family in the city has put a $5 million bounty on her head. Trapped in a hospital supply closet with killers closing in, her maybe mob boss husband whispers through the phone, "Tiana, they're already in the building." The door opened, and the man standing there in scrubs was smiling.